Happy Wednesday, 10 August 2022. Fire for Effect Live. Good to have everybody on. Good to see you guys again. Good to be back. I know we had a bit of a lull in the action there. I was trying to line some shit up, and we're slowly getting there. And my buddy Dave moved in. We're trying to buy property in Mexico, so he had to sell off all his shit to front that operation. That being said, it's hotter here than it is where we want to go in Mexico right now. So fucking roasting up here in the studio, which is my bonus room. Let's bring Bryce in. We got a special guest tonight from Homes for Heroes. We're gonna bring her in a little bit here. We got some preamble to cover, but since my two friggin' rock stars are not with me, I'm stuck with you, buddy. There's Danielle. But you were going to bed, young lady. You have a rough day. What's going on, man? We were talking.
Hey, how are you?
Good, man. We were talking off air about you getting a grant.
Yeah, going after my first grant from the city of Edmonton with my new project called Above Your Service. It's going to be hopefully when it does come through, knock on wood, everybody throw some good vibes out there for us.
Yep.
We're going to be helping the unhoused community a little bit more downtown Edmonton with this project. So
how does one getting a grant? And I know Delia was helping you out. She'll be on in a bit. Actually, let's just bring her in.
yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Delia Pirie, 24 years, Canadian Armed Forces, recently retired in 2018, retired as a warrant officer, 2 tours in Afghanistan. Does that about sum it up?
That sounds about right.
Right? And you did a degree in bachelor's degree in social work?
Yes.
All right. And we're gonna get into what she's doing now, but let's get into this whole, let's rewind here because I have to look at some grant stuff for some documentary shit I want to do later. So I'd like to hear what you guys got going on and how, like, I don't even know how you get a grant. Not a fucking clue. So what did you do, Bryce? Did you know about how to do this or did she walk you through it?
She walked me through it. I know that there's ways to, and there's different organizations, different city, different all that kind of stuff that will provide. You basically have to prove your wants. You have to prove your bank statements, and you have to prove what kind of or. And then from there, it's basically a little bit of a fancy write up, and it gets sent in. And then Miss Delia, she's the one who's working her magic with this one. So.
And how the hell do you know about that stuff, Delia? I'm dying to know.
So, one of my closest friends, I've been friends with her since she was 18.
Yeah.
That's basically what she does. She writes grant proposals. She's worked for nonprofits her whole entire career. And she lined me up with, this is how you do it. This is some places you can go. This is some resources. You have to subscribe to a lot of things. And some are for fees and some are free. There's a lot of search involved with a grant. To get a grant to begin with, you've got to find one that you can actually write to. Like, do I check these boxes?
And are these like city, provincial, federal, or is there different ones? Like how does
all of them? Yeah, anything out there that we can tap into, we're gonna go for.
Okay.
This just happened to be like, it's an anti-racism grant from the city of Edmonton. They're doing, actually the deadline is midnight tonight.
Okay, we gotta go.
I've got everything. I just have to submit it now. And so that's where we're at. Most stuff's like that's a deadline. Think of it like school, university, everything's like the day before, the night of. That's how this works.
Yeah.
And yeah. No, but it's one of those things where you've got to search for your grants, right? You've got to see, does this work for my organization, what I'm doing? Is it, in this case of this one that we're trying for, it's actually a project. And then there's all kinds of criteria of what you can spend the money on, and you have to do the research into that. This one, for example, we can't do anything that it's towards any sort of capital, right? So we were looking for a fridge, and that doesn't fulfill within this grant.
Right. You can't Buy physical. Okay, yeah.
And so
That's got to be.
it's
You need somebody who knows what they're doing to keep you out of shit. Is what I would guess. Like I'd fuck it up for sure, so I'd need somebody to walk me through it.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. That's why you got
I
to
wouldn't,
build
I
your team
wouldn't, I
strong.
shouldn't say that because I'm going to be going for grants later, and the guy's going to be, well, I remember on your podcast on 10 August, you said you'd fuck it up. No, I imagine there's, as you're saying, a lot of constraints on what you can do with the money, what you can't do with the money. I
and
can't.
a lot of times you have to prove afterwards what you've done with the money.
Sure, keep all your
So
receipts. That seems normal.
receipts, but not just that. So at the end of it, there's for a lot of grants, it's like, how did you succeed? So this is a project. So how do we quantify what you've done? And so who makes that judgment call? How do you do that? And so that's a factor that's involved. It's easy if you're doing, for example, say it's a youth group home and they're doing renovations. Well, the completed project is the renovation. So that's an obvious quantifiable kind of thing, but some of them aren't so easy to do that with.
Do you think? Yeah, I like the red tape's probably a bad word to use, but do you think that there's how can I phrase this? A bunch of untapped grants that people don't know about that,
Hundreds, thousands.
like probably there's probably money available funds that are there that just are untapped because of a lack of education. There's our man right there. Thanks for showing up. Yeah, I don't know where you even would start to look. So it's good that you have a resource to help research that stuff. And Bryce, did you go to her? Like, how did this conversation start where you realized, hey, I can get a grant, and by the way, you got to get this fucking thing done tonight?
Yeah, no, I've been by word of mouth and by word of friendship, been looking around and asking who knows or who is a grant writer. Basically, one of the easiest ways to power a not-for-profit, self-sustaining, is going after this kind of stuff instead of going after little donations from, not that I won't accept a $5 or a $20 donation, because we've got continuous, we've even got some as big as $100 or more coming in monthly now
Yeah.
to help us with that street team. So,
Okay. And so, like, do you need to? I was going to talk about Trump and what a fucking idiot he is, but this is more interesting. Do you need a non-for-profit setup to do this? Like, how does that?
yeah.
How does it
So
work?
they're going to ask you, they're going to
Prereqs,
ask
right?
you to prove your bank statements and your bank issue and all that kind of stuff, your incorporation letters and those kind of things. So yeah, you have to have your financials fully figured out before you even venture into this stuff. At the same time, it's kind of what I've been doing for the last little bit, is building this new
Yeah.
project. So it's
Oh,
all ready to go.
Daryl joined us live, shit-faced in Mexico. Daryl, did you find that bar? Anyway, he's hammered on the beach. That's where I need to be. So yeah, it's a lot. It feels like a lot, but I think it's something for people that are trying to do what we are all trying to do from different angles and different, ways of doing it. Find a way to tap into that and be able to access those funds. So if you get this grant, and I don't need to know how much it's going to be. What are you going to use it for? Like, how are you going to utilize those funds?
So some of the project layout was that we were going to provide sacred medicine for the Aboriginal community.
Okay, right.
Within that homeless community that we serve.
So what's the narrative of, like, I don't know what an anti-racism grant is. I could guess or surmise that the narrative is any initiatives, to kill off stereotypes, promote racial equity, blah, blah, blah. Does that sound right?
Also allows them to heal is another big portion of that too. It allows them to open up that communication, and also the reconciliation part of things where somebody is actually going out there and willing to help. So with what we already do, my amazing street team, and I say it graciously, it's not my team. There's a lot of moving parts within that street outreach team. But
And this is with Water Warriors, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. And we concurrent while we're already concurrently doing that, we're going after the extra money to be able to help those projects. So that way, once we bring in elders from the community that were already once unhoused and now they're part of our volunteer group,
Right.
they're able to help others heal sage and that tobacco around in the background of things on top of what we already do with the clothing and the food and all that kind of stuff.
Okay. So, Delia is going to be the star today, and I'm trying to create a segue. Are you still finding homeless veterans in your guys' travels? You're out Thursday, every Thursday night with the street teams, with the good people at Water Warriors YAG.
Yeah.
Providing sandwiches, clothing, blankets, water, especially in this fucking heat we got going on to these people. Are you still coming across homeless veterans?
Yeah, we haven't recently brought, I think it's been within the last 3 weeks that we've had, know that there has been, referring right back to another conversation with Delia I had on site at Homes for Heroes. There was 8 veterans that were there at one point, and now the numbers have increased by, I can't even remember what it is now, but there is quite a bit. There's a need for AC as well. That's the big one. So we're working on that project in the background because we've got a couple of funders that are willing to bring that in. So could you imagine in this heat living in an Atco trailer, not having AC?
Yeah. I assume they did. But on that note, let's talk to Delia. So again, for those of you guys that missed it, Delia is a former member of the Canadian Armed Forces. Did 24 years combined service, 2 tours in Afghanistan, and completed a bachelor's degree in social work. And now she is it volunteer? Is that safe to say, or how does it work? Are you staff?
I'm staff for Homes for Heroes.
She works for Homes for Heroes. And can you tell the viewers a little about, in broad terms, what Homes for Heroes is, the Homes for Heroes Foundation, the background and like the mission statement and stuff like that? Could you help enlighten everybody here? I've done some research, but I'm by no means to the level that I probably should have.
No, it's all good. So it's really the vision, mission, all of it is to end homelessness for Canadian veterans. There's potentially 5,000 houseless veterans across Canada.
I've
Count,
read the numbers between 3,500 and 5,000 across the country.
So, and I think that number is actually underestimated. Sorry if you're hearing whining. My dog is hanging out here.
All good. I have 3, but they're not here.
No, so statistics show that, and studies show that veterans who become houseless tend to become houseless 10 years after they leave the military. And more often than not, they tend to go off and live rough. And so that makes them more complicated and harder to find. And that's one of the big challenges. And that's why I think that number for what they have is the number of 5,000 across Canada is larger than we think it is. And then there's the people that don't think they're a veteran. So that's a huge, huge issue.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point.
I struggle with that term. I don't feel that that's one of the things that, makes me up who I am, right? Did I serve in the military? Absolutely, right? But I don't think that I can sit here and confidently say that I'm a veteran, even though I am, right? And I think that's a common struggle.
By the way, right? So that's, I get that. That's humility, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you are for sure. And considering your experience, background, and the fact that you've been deployed, should really, I would think, help you with the line of work that you're in. Would you agree with that statement?
Oh, 100%. And most of it's lived experience. I'm finding is the most beneficial. I was 3B released. I get IRB. I'm technically DEC, and I can sit here and say all those things, and I understand what they mean.
I got to
And so
educate.
do those.
I got to provide some education. Sorry to interrupt. We have to.
No,
speak
it's all
to
good.
civvies. We had to talk to civvies too. So
No, absolutely. So when I say that, 3B release is a medical release,
medical
right?
release and
Yeah.
IRB
Is
is
your income replacement benefit. And so that's your either top up from SysUp or whichever to get you to 90%
yeah.
of your pre-release salary. And then your DEC is diminished earnings capacity, where they feel that you won't make, I think it's 66% of your pre-release salary out in the world based on your conditions and everything else.
And there are fucking countless veterans who are not, and I don't want to turn this into a VAC conversation. We've had a million of them. There are countless veterans, but there is a tie-in, so just everybody be cool here. With countless veterans who are not aware of the benefits that are entitled to, and maybe if they were, maybe they wouldn't need to be on the streets, or maybe they wouldn't need the service that Homes for Heroes is providing. Is that fair to say, or am I just talking shit?
Well, that's where society has failed.
Yeah.
That's where our government and the institutions that took care of them, the military, they failed.
Well, they're definitely falling down for sure. I mean, you're getting into government organizations that are so fucking top heavy with tons of red tape, run by people that cannot, resonate with people like us. And you're dealing with bureaucracy, and I understand that there's a system to it, but fuck, man, I did 24 years as well. I've been out for 10. So I'll probably lose my house and move in down there. No.
That's because you haven't done your back paperwork.
See, that's it. I know, because I'm too fucking proud and stubborn, and I've only recently got into that system. And I didn't know any of this shit because there's, it's they don't want to advertise it. They don't want to tell you about all these programs. Okay, enough about that. Just give us I don't know, a day in the life of how the housing program is set up. How do you find and bring them in, and what's the process, and I guess agreement, if such a thing exists, between the expectations of the tenant. I know it's not permanent, so I'm not letting the cat out of the bag. Like, we just kind of walk everybody through that. And I'm sure Bryce and JT can segue in with some questions as well. Just walk us through like the high level.
For sure. So I think maybe you need to take a couple of steps back and understand exactly what kind of housing organization we have. So we're transitional housing. A lot of transitional housing is typically, a 90 days, maybe 30 days. This one, we say 2 years. So this means it's not like you're housed and you now have 90 days to get your shit all together and off you go. That's almost impossible. You can't even fulfill a full VAC claim in 90 days. You don't necessarily qualify for Alberta Works in 90 days.
Right. Everybody's going to be different. It's got to be case by case. So you can't timestamp it and say, you got to get this done or you're fucking down range, right? That doesn't really work like that.
Exactly. And that's why we have it for 2 years-ish. If somebody's ready and it makes sense, they can go ahead and transition and graduate long before. We sometimes are just a soft place to land. Like, we had someone that was only there for 2 months, and that's all he needed. He just needed a soft place to land. Otherwise, he would have been houseless. And but in the grand scheme of things, they need to work with us on site as social workers. They need to work with all the various things going on. So if they have a case manager through Veterans Affairs, we're often in contact with them, going, okay, this is a need, and what can we do, right? And Danielle said something great. That's impossible for anyone, but it's true. I couldn't do my own personal VAC paperwork. I had to get help, but I can go through and do everybody else's. I have no issues. But to do it myself and write my own story down and all my other garbage that went with it was overwhelming.
Oh, and fuck yeah, I get that. Yeah, it's painful. They need those services. Is that part of what is provided? Like, walk me through the services. Housing's the main one. Is there ancillary services that are provided?
So
Is
there's
there
nothing
tie-ins to
official.
other organizations?
There's nothing official in regards to if you end up at a Homes for Heroes village, you are going to have access to a doctor, and you're going to have access to psychological supports and everything else. We can't guarantee that. So every village is going to be slightly different.
Okay.
So they will have access to social workers, though. That's a primary goal, is to make sure that the people sitting in the office, their Monday to Friday kind of idea, are social workers. So we have that ability to talk and negotiate with other organizations and other levels of bureaucracy to try and advocate for the individuals. But in the grand scheme of things, I can speak to the Edmonton Village. It's a bit unique in comparison to the Calgary Village. Because at the Edmonton Village, we're bringing in a nurse case practitioner, and they come in once a month, twice a month, and give everybody, whatever they need. If that's just, I'm going to utilize you till my VAC paperwork is done, and then I'm done with doctors and never want to deal with them again.
Okay,
then,
all right. So I think that helps
Yeah.
answer Kathleen's question. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
And then, then we have a student psychologist. They're doing their practicum. She's been coming in. She's being supervised on a higher level to make sure that, she's doing all the things that need to be done. And some of the guys have decided that they want to utilize her services, and some have not. But that's okay. That takes time, and yeah. So, and then of course, you wanted a typical day. So, for example, every other Tuesday we do veterans coffee. They do veterans coffee at the food bank. We also do it at Homes for Heroes. So Tuesday morning, the guys are doing whatever it is they're doing. Some of them go to work. Some of them have appointments, or maybe they're just, sleeping in. It doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. And at 1:00, we have coffee, and we have veterans coming in from all over the area that want to come and just talk about, hockey or the weather or riding motorcycles, and just to connect. And so it gives some of these, some of our residents the ability to potentially forge new bonds, new relationships with people that are healthier than maybe some of the past people they've been dealing with. People who've overcome addictions, people who have dealt with VAC, people who have chronic pain. These are the people that are coming in, and maybe they can see a piece of themselves and see how they can be like that too eventually.
And that basically just brings in the community aspect, where you're just engaging them back into their veteran community, allowing them to kind of make new friends, but in a positive aspect.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it truly is. And so Bryce comes to many of our coffees. I don't think you've missed one yet.
No, absolutely not. No, I try to bring out as many people as I can as well, and kind of bring my twist to it. But if I find out anybody doesn't have a quilt of valor, I put that into a spin and make sure that there's a quilt presented to any veteran on ground that doesn't have one. It doesn't matter if you're a tiny homes attendant or of another veteran that has showed up just because it's coffee break. Like this last Tuesday, we had a coffee company from Saskatchewan send out I think it was like a 3-pound bag of their new dark roast called Code Black. Rampage Coffee. Thank you very much. That went out to the veterans at Homes for Heroes, and it's going to trickle its way over to the Veterans Association Food Bank of Edmonton as well. And there's going to be little demo bags there as well too. So
That's cool. So that, because I know the coffee thing kind of rotates locations. I've only been to one. I don't fucking go out much. What's the, like, we're going through a day in the life. We talked about Tuesday. Do some guys just stay there? Are they going out trying to find work? Like, do they have a curfew? What is their house rules? How does that all work? What amenities on site? I know each site's different. What does that look like for as far as and I know I need to come down there and walk the ground so I don't have to ask fucking questions that I can go find out for myself, but I'm giving you that chance to kind of plug this.
No, for sure. So each resident has obviously a tiny home. It's about 300 square feet, give or take. And they have their own bed, their own bathroom, their own small kitchen. There's a couch, TV in there. We provide basic appliances, your coffee pot, your toaster, your microwave, some basic kitchen utensils and pots and pans and dishes, just a small set, with lots of extra cupboard space so that they can go ahead and purchase things that they maybe prefer, or, for eventually when they move on. We have a landline in each unit because sometimes keeping a cell phone is challenging, or even just paying for a cell phone. And there's a cable package, and they have Wi-Fi. So if they are doing virtual appointments, or maybe they want to do schooling, or even if they just want to stream a movie because they haven't seen a movie by themselves in, I don't know, 5 years, 7 years, they can go ahead and do that. And so, yeah, in that concept, that's what their space looks like. And in going from there, so there's no curfew. They're free to come and go as they please. We do 3-month leases. So every 3 months, they have to interact with us no matter what. And we usually review goals at that point in time. What do they want? And sometimes these goals are really simple. I want to eat better. I want to sleep regularly. I want to be able to take a shower every day.
Wow.
These are things that some of these individuals have not had. And so to be able to, I need to figure out how to cook again, because they've been going through shelters, or just whatever's instant, whatever's non-perishable can be eaten, while they're in their tent. These are the things that, that they're challenges. They're significant challenges. And so
absolutely. Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's all good. Oftentimes, if anybody's been highly integrated into the shelter system, when they come out, being in a space of their own is really challenging. You'll find that they will sleep with their clothes on and their shoes on, because if you don't in a shelter, they'll get stolen.
Yep.
And so that can take a month to ease. And so, yeah, so that's why I say those other transitional places that are 30, 60, 90 days, there's really not enough time.
Yeah, I just don't know how you can put a number on something like that when it just, I can't get my head around that. And that's institutionalization and systems. But I mean, you're talking every person, and I can't wrap my head around what that looks like, but it feels like every person that comes through your doors most certainly would have a different story, a very unique story, and you can't put a broad stroke paintbrush on every problem to solve it. So it's good that it's like that, so that you're going case by case and reviewing what you're trying to do.
And we do have things like, we have a code of conduct. We have a drug and alcohol policy. So, you're allowed to drink alcohol within moderation. There's no rules about that. Same thing with cannabis. You can ingest oils and edibles in your own home. If you're going to smoke, you need to smoke outside. and any other drug usage needs to be done off property. And so, but we do have conversations with individuals that have those challenges and encourage and reinforce ways to make sure that they're safe. And the code of conduct is a lot about, being a good human, you can't threaten employees, you can't threaten other residents, you just need to be a good neighbor. And so sometimes in that case, we have it written down mostly because people need a line. And for a long time, they haven't had it necessarily.
Yeah. And I want to believe that most, ex-military people, there's no such thing as an ex-military person. If you get a military mind, you'll have it for your whole life. I think that's what I think, that would understand these rules and try to follow them. And I don't know if there's disciplinary issues, there's fucking disciplinary issues all over the place inside of the Army and outside. So I imagine that those rules are there. And if they get broken, there's a disciplinary process. But for the most part, I can't imagine guys or ladies that are offered this opportunity to have a roof over their head and access to help are going to be too much of a problem. Is that fair to say? Oh,
well, everybody comes with stuff. That's about the best way I can put it.
Yeah,
everybody has too, stuff.
Right?
Everybody comes with usually a basic level of trauma. Not everybody, I shouldn't say that, but many people come with a basic level of trauma, and then you can add other layers of trauma. Because you can't tell me, if you haven't lived in the shelter system for 5 years, you haven't seen some stuff and experienced some stuff, right? You can't tell me, if you've spent the last 2 years living rough, that you haven't seen and experienced some stuff. Even just the fact that you have to figure out how to survive every day is based on, where am I going to sleep? How safe am I? And where am I going to eat? What am I going to eat? Right? If that's what's going through your mind every moment of every day, then, you're going to have another layer of trauma. And then let's throw some more stuff on top of that, depending on your life experience. Right? Maybe you had some stuff go on in your childhood. It didn't have to be big, but it's one more thing. And so it's just layers upon layers. And, that can lead to inappropriate coping mechanisms, which is excessive alcohol, drugs, anything to numb pain, physically and or mentally. It's one of those things so people come with stuff and they have to relearn how to manage their things, and whatever those are, if that's their anger, their emotions, that's how they need to rework how they're safe and what that actually means. There's so much.
Yeah. And I guess I should have asked this up front, because there's been some questions. We got a lot of viewers in Ontario. How many homes for heroes establishments are there across the country?
So there's currently 2. There is the one in Calgary,
right?
That was originally done. Absolutely. And it's about 2 years old. There's the one in Edmonton, which only just opened, I want to say late December, very, very early January. I can't remember when the official grand opening was. Mm-hmm. But I know we got a first resident in late December. And so there are talks in regards to Victoria, Quebec City, Halifax. Those are just talks between the foundation and the municipalities to see what and if anything is feasible. And of course, every municipality has different, rules and regulations and policies to follow and those kinds of things. They've confirmed a spot in Kingston, and they should be breaking ground in, I want to say, early next year, maybe March. I can't say for sure, because they're doing things currently right now, like environmental studies and all those things that have to be done legally before they can actually put a shovel in the ground. So a lot of it depends on how long that takes. And they've secured a location in Winnipeg, and they are just they're a bit behind where they are in Kingston for that one.
That is good to hear that we're spreading this out, especially where there's concentrations of military presence, like obviously with Winnipeg with the air base, former home of two PPCLI, lots of military guys there. Kingston, yeah, good location. In Ontario could probably use about 3 or 4 of these things, I guess. Somewhere near Petawawa would probably be good as well, but it's really good that they're expanding. What else was I going to ask? Hang on.
I have a follow-up question, if you don't mind, Chris.
Oh, please go nuts here. I'm trying to run the board, so if I look confused, it's not that. I'm trying to
just out of curiosity, when you have the tiny homes set up, is there a bus for food, or is also something left to the veteran or the occupant?
That's left to the resident. However, we're there to help them manage those resources, right? And so, like here in Edmonton, we use the Veterans Association Food Bank, right? And so that's a huge
100%.
huge support of us. I have no words for how amazing they've been for helping the residents in the village. It's been spectacular. From
everything
VAC
from VA
forms,
benefits, 100%.
Yeah, to the food, to just support. We have some of our residents and now a couple of former residents volunteer there, to give back. They don't necessarily have the financial resources, but they have the time. And so they're trying to give back. And that's fabulous. I know that the Calgary Village relies on the Calgary Food Bank. And then we keep going from there and we start looking for resources. We're currently, the Edmonton Village is on Cobb's waitlist for their extra bread at the end of the day to get a few loaves.
Wow, their extra bread at the end of the day is better than the shit you buy at Sobeys.
Yeah.
No offense to anybody working at Sobeys.
We have a great relationship with like the city of Edmonton. They have been able to, they got us on the PATH program. Which is basically they give us subsidized, free bus passes and bus tickets.
Nice.
So currently, the counselor for the area was able to connect us, and we get 5 bus passes. So we try to prioritize for the people that are working, or they have a lot of appointments. And then from there, we have bus tickets that we can give out on a need basis.
So that drives a question. There's some other conversation that we'll have offline. It's an interesting location, for lack of a fucking better term. This is a personal opinion of mine. I don't like that location. I have a cousin who's a paramedic who lives in that same community. Went to a community hall meeting. Was actually raised concerns that it didn't feel like what are we calling it, a village? Is that safe? Was not integrated within the community. There was a bunch of other reasons. It's just an interesting location. It says right off 153rd Ave in Edmonton, like on, kind of a boulevard thing. How do you think that works? Because I've also heard good reasons why it's there. A lot of the guys like the traffic noise. It helps them. A lot of the guys like the access to the bus routes. So like, what does that, give me your thoughts on that. And, you can say what you can say about that.
So some of the reasoning behind that, where it is the land's expensive. And land in Edmonton is atrocious. So only so many places were suitable where there was land available. And then when you start looking at what other resources are around there, right? So there's literally a bus stop right there on 153rd. You go a half a block north and there's a transit station. So there's massive, ability to move around the city. It's away from the inner city. So we can take people out of, triggering locations. And because, it's nothing if you're living, downtown or in on 118th in an apartment building and you're an addict and you've cut off your dealer, but there's a dealer who lives above you and a dealer who lives down the hall. And so it's really easy to fall into those bad habits that are unhelpful, right?
No.
And then you look at a bunch of other things of, how do the residents view it? And so,
Good point. Yeah.
Because that's the most important part. They're the ones living there. Do they like it? And everything so far has been fairly positive feedback, right?
Yeah, it's like, don't get me wrong, for those of you listening or watching right now, it is a beautiful setup. I remember the first time I saw it, I went, wow, that's pretty fucking cool, man. They've done a great job. We still need to make a trip down there. I was just curious because it just feels like that's a weird spot, yet you can find some positives into why it's there, and it makes sense. It gives them access to, obviously the big one would be transit to get to where they need to go, because most of them probably do not have their own vehicles.
Yeah,
and access
to echo that comment in the Brandon's comment too, it takes them away from that downtown core where most of them are being, and away from the drugs.
Yeah.
Not to say that drugs aren't going to follow you, because it's all it takes is a text message now and drugs can show up, but it's also just not having drugs show up is the big one. We're finding a lot of veterans. I know there's a that we found right outside of the Hope Mission. And if you sit around the Hope Mission long enough in the downtown area, there's a couple of vehicles that I don't know how still drive around with the amount of police presence in that area. And you can tell very well what they do. And they're just straight up drug dealers. And they're driving around and just slinging this stuff everywhere. So there's only so much that we can do to it.
How do these, how does it work for food? Do they buy their own groceries? Like, are they accessing resources from the food bank?
Yes, absolutely. Both of those things. They use the food bank if they want to.
Okay.
And we try to primarily go with the Veterans Food Bank because then it leaves everyone who's not a veteran to use the regular City of Edmonton Food Bank.
Yeah.
And so in that concept, but yes, no, the residents, they pay rent, they pay utilities, they pay for their food, they pay for their cell phone bills if they've got one. Like, they're supposed to cover all those things. Now, granted, rent is
right. So that's
rent is due on the 1st,
yeah.
just like everywhere else. And but we help them navigate that, right? So say we've got somebody who, okay, I get paid on the 10th, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we talk to them, they talk to us. And so we'll sit there and go, okay, so we'll hold off your rent. We'll take it out on the 12th. And then we start working with them to make a plan for, okay, they're getting money, they're getting paid. How do they save that money so that eventually on the 1st, when the money is due, they have it, right?
See, that's fucking awesome that you just brought that up, because I did not know that till right now. I thought this was, a free service. It's good that because it shouldn't be. There's no skin in the game for them if it's all free to them. And two, if you're a resident that's lost touch with, I guess, financial management skills, which a lot of us do, it helps you get back there. It feels like that's what you guys are promoting and trying to educate them on. That's really good. JT had a question.
I did have a question. I have lots of questions. Sorry, I'm now just adding to the discussion here again. Hi, sorry, I showed up a little bit late there, everybody. So I kind of hear like a lot of the success stories and how you get a lot of high functioning veterans in this facility. And I've driven by this facility a number of times. It is beautiful. I like the location. However it ended up being there is however it ended up being there. But yeah, there's lots of benefits to being off 153rd there. So we're dealing two things. These high functioning residents you have right now, sounds like, again, they want the help, want the support, and they're going to go through this system, and we're going to get them where they need to be within that 2-year time frame. What are we doing, first off, for people that are definitely within that crisis situation, and then getting them into this foundation? What can the general public do? What can first responders do? What can volunteers do to try and navigate them over to the foundation? And the other thing is, what do you do with, I'm just trying to think of the best way to mention this. Like, what are you dealing with? How are you dealing with these people that are definitely still in a crisis, that are still right in the midst of their mental health issues, health and just general health issues, addiction issues? Because I like how you have this set up. It's like, let's get these people a brick and mortar solution. Let's get them a roof over their head. Let's get them safe. Let's get them working through some of these issues. But what can you kind of speak to, or have you experienced kind of those people that are still in that very sensitive like time frame? Because at the same time, like especially with health or even getting these people into the acute care setting, what I mean by that is emergency, is the best success stories that you can get when you bring people to a hospital is you get them after they've had their overdose, or after they've had like their traumatic incident, and you kind of inundate them with all those resources. So is it the same kind of model, different, similar? Can you kind of speak to that at all? And again, I understand if you can't, I get it with just the sensitivity of the question, but yeah, I hit you with a lot.
Yeah,
I was going to say that's a really long question.
Ever. We're still working on his interviewing techniques, but he's getting better.
Listen,
I'm at a minute 40 into this, so this is all built up. This is all bubbled over. This is my trauma I'm dealing with, so sorry about that.
He needs a hug. Somebody needs to go give him a hug.
Delia, do the best you can with that one, because I.
Okay. So yes, we do take high functioning. We have an intake process. We are not a harm reduction site. We are not a safe consumption site. We are not a 24/7 care setting. So we need these individuals to be able to handle themselves on a Saturday afternoon or a Friday night, or it's a Tuesday night. It doesn't really matter. But we're not there. I should say we're only there Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. That is our scheduled time that we are there. And now we've come in early or stayed late at the request of a resident because of their work schedule or whichever, because we want to do our best to meet them and have their needs met. But
so you got
in that process,
NCO.
No, they have each other, and that's about it.
I think that's a good thing. They shouldn't feel like they're in a fucking.
And that's why I said there's no curfew. They can come and go as they please. This would be no different if they were living in an apartment down on the south side by Southgate, right? They can come and go as they please. You got to be quiet after 11 or your neighbors are going to yell and complain to management. You got to pay your rent. You got to buy your food, all those things, right? Like that is the society we live in, right? And so how do we help those individuals do that, right? Now, we'll get people that will come to us for an intake and they are not ready for there yet, right?
So how do you manage that?
Then we work on finding resources for them. There's places where we can get them in that work on harm reduction, or maybe they want a full-fledged detox. Maybe it's all mental health concerns and they need some inpatient treatment in that regard. And so we can help them navigate some of those things, for what they need based on their individual needs. And it's so very different for every person. So I can't say, well, we're going to do this every time, because it doesn't work. Right. And so some people need to deal with trauma and addiction. Some people just trauma, other people's just addiction. And sometimes they go deal with one thing and then the rest of it comes up and they've got to deal with that too. And so they don't have to be stable, but they have to be wanting to somewhat reintegrate into society from being houseless.
Okay.
Does that answer your questions? I don't know.
It does. No, it really does. Because this is such a complicated issue when you're dealing with, and for me, I wouldn't even I'd kind of put this under the umbrella of like the vulnerable sector. It's just with this specific demographic is they're veterans, right? So they actually have a couple of habits or some things that are in place that'll actually lend to their success. But no, that definitely answers how you approach this. It's if you're going to meet us halfway, we're going to meet you 75%. Like we're going to do everything we can. If you just want to meet us like just somewhere in the middle, we're going to give you everything else that you need. Just for intake, I got the website out and I was looking at that. Is it either a phone call, email, drop them off at your front door? What works the best?
Yeah, I want to
All
let's
of
get
those
into
things.
all the contact information because I'm down to the wire for time management here. How can those people get a hold, the guys on the street? How do they find out if there's a veteran on the street who doesn't have the internet, doesn't have a phone? Everything JTS. I know Bryce is going to chop at the bit on this one, which is good. Then we had some questions from the viewers and future listeners. Actually, Delia is the only one that listens to the show on Spotify, which fucking blew me away. How do people get a hold of it? It's homesforheroesfoundation.ca. I know that's probably the easiest, but I'll let you kind of wrap it with that.
That's our office phone number there that
Okay.
was just put up in the chat there. It's so the office number in the village is
I will post that.
825-202-6329. And I can get you my email, my work email there. And you can email the village directly, or there's on the website, there's an info at H4H. And that one just goes to our generic inbox. We've gotten people from that way as intakes. And actually, we're starting to get case managers email us, looking for some of their clients to be housed. And then we can work with the case manager from Veterans Affairs to be like, okay, this person's not ready yet. If they do this, this, and this, they'll probably be more suitable once they get here, And so that really puts it back onto Veterans Affairs to get people the certain supports they need for addictions and mental health.
Perfect. Are you also, is there any volunteer opportunities in Calgary or Edmonton that people can do, like to come down and help out? Is there anything like that?
Right now, we don't have a formal volunteer program. It's definitely on my list of things to do amongst, it looks like Santa's, list,
Sure.
all the things that need to be done.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely on my list that we're going to do. But if people want to help out, just come down on the Tuesday when we do coffee. We just had it this Tuesday. We do it every other Tuesday. And just get to know people, and maybe you have something that you can help out with. Like we had a guy that I met, and he comes in and he's been doing whoever wants to their taxes.
Yeah, just to learn what the need,
and
like
back
a
taxes,
needs assessment type thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. That's amazing. It's amazing stuff. Yeah, I'd love to keep going, but unfortunately, I serve a higher master and I have to share airtime. So I want to thank you so much for coming on and educating us, everybody. Give it up for Delia Pirie again and Homes for Heroes Foundation. Thank you very much. I hope we get to do this again. I really do. With a follow-up, I think I should make a commitment to come down next Tuesday and put my money where my mouth is and check. And yeah, I think I'm pretty free to do that. So thank you very much. I hope you guys all enjoyed this, ladies and gentlemen. We've had a good run. I'm going to bid you all farewell, and we'll do this again very much. Delia, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Anytime. We'll do it again. Wow. There you go. Go to homesforheroesfoundation.ca to learn more information. I'll try to post as much as I can. Thank you guys for jumping in. That went quicker than I planned, but it is what it is. So Fire for Effect Live, again, we're going to do this again next week. And I think in 2 weeks, I'm getting representation from the Veterans Association Food Bank on. What I'm trying to do is try to find, a lot of different groups out there doing a lot of work, but are the synergies all there? So we're trying to do that. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Fire for Effect Live brought to you by and hosted by the Dean Blundell Network. Go to deanblundell.com, Canada's largest digital source for news, sports, podcasts and all kinds of crazy ass shit. Check it out on deanblundell.com. Mr. Hooper Inc., who better bring some weed over if he wants to remain a sponsor. An alternative solution to conventional medicine. Check it out. Bryce is your man for that type of stuff. And my good friend, Mr. Jeff None, who hooked me up yesterday. Check out my Instagram to see my Fred Flintstone score of beef that he got me. Jeff None and his family run Lakeside Farmstead north of Edmonton. They can provide anybody in the area, and they do ship as well with cross Wagyu and a variety of dairy products. Family owned and operated. That is local, farm to table, no fucking bullshit. And once again, Homes for Heroes Foundation, big shout out to them. Homes for Heroes Foundation.ca. Check it out. And I will see you people next time